Hello one, hello all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, however you are. Welcome to another Patch and Play live stream. This is the technically third stream, but realistically second stream I've done of these. We did one 2 weeks ago that had some technical difficulties and didn't really get off the ground. But last week we did a really good, successful one, ran for about 2 hours. The idea here is that we are going to do some patching on the modular system here, and it will be completely unplanned. So I have not really thought at all in advance about what I might do. If anyone is here watching, please say hello in the chat. Let me know that you're here. I want these to be as valuable as possible to anyone watching. The idea here is for it to be entertaining and educational and hopefully social. So I'd love to teach things. That's one of the things I really enjoy about, I guess, life in general, but also modular specifically. And if you've watched my channel before, you know that a lot of it is about trying to impart knowledge and share ideas. So first and foremost, if people have questions about anything related to modular, music tech, music production, I'm happy to answer questions, talk about things. If you have specific questions about modules that you see here, then we can go into detail about anything like that. I don't know if I have an audience yet. We'll see. I think if no one is here yet, I'm going to just get my tea going. Got some green tea here from Taiwan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And try to think what we're going to patch today. So last week, we did some audio rate modulation with a sequential switch. This guy right here, the Vice Verga. This is a switch from Noise Engineering that can operate as like an 8-channel switch, or 2 4-channel switches, or 4 2-channel switches. And we used it in sort of the 2-channel mode where we were alternating 2 oscillators coming from Castor and Pollux very quickly, left and right, swapping back and forth between the left and right channels, and kind of creating a interesting amplitude modulation as a result of that switching. And I think we kind of explored that more or less as far as we wanted. Would kind of like to try more about that in the future, but maybe let's not do the exact same thing 2 weeks in a row. So what will it be today? One thing I guess I've been thinking about is trying to do kind of like multi-oscillator kind of chord sounds. So like on the Oxy 1 here, my sequencer, there's a chord mode, which allows you to, specify a chord by letter, note, letter name, and chord quality, rather than picking out each individual note. And it can work with either MIDI or CV. And if you have it, if you're sending a chord to a polyphonic synthesizer, then obviously you can reproduce the entire chord. In my modular setup, I do not have a polyphonic oscillator. So I guess, some of them kind of fake it, like rings can kind of overlap multiple notes in its sort of 2 or 4 voice mode, but it's not really the same thing as like playing multiple pitches simultaneously. But I thought would be maybe kind of be interesting is to have each voice in the chord sort of allocated to a different oscillator. And so you have like, you can basically have like different timbral quality for each voice within the chord and make like a really thick sound. I thought that might be interesting. Hey, Neo Ultima, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for stopping by. I guess as people arrive, I should also kind of recap the intro, because I probably was giving the details before anyone was here to listen to him. But maybe I'll do that every 10 or 15 minutes, so I'm not just saying the same thing over and over. But yeah, just to quickly recap, this is a completely unplanned patch session where we're just going to geek out, see where it goes. To the extent that people arrive and participate. I would love to answer questions about my modular setup, modular in general, other music tech stuff, whatever you'd like to talk about in regards to music production. Because I'd like this to be educational and entertaining. But in the meantime, we're going to try doing some of this chord stuff. So let's get some sounds going, make sure we can hear okay and that all the audio levels are good. So I guess first things first is let's get some audio from the main out of the audio from the mixer into my output so that we can actually hear something. And let me just plug in an oscillator just as a quick level test. Oh, I should probably reset my I should reset the mixer because I've been working on a new song this week that'll be coming out on Monday, and everything is still in the state that it was when I finished the project. Okay, so we're all reset now. Let's plug in Castor and Pollux because it is close by, and just make sure we can hear. Okay, there is an oscillator. So everyone watching should be able to hear that as well as me. It's a little quiet for me, but I think maybe it's okay. I wanted to make sure that you can very clearly hear my voice over any of the sounds from the system. So let me know if it sounds okay. Let me take that out for the moment. Let me just mute everything. So maybe we'll pick some voices first. I'm thinking maybe 4 voices so we can do 7th chords. And if I can figure out a way to do further extensions of that, that might work. For a bass voice, I mean, Castor and Pollux is pretty good because it's got that really low growly tone. So maybe we'll actually use this. Let me get a little shorter cable because it's pretty close. In fact, we could theoretically use both sides of Castor and Pollux as 2 separate oscillators, but I'm really thinking like maybe more drastically different sounds between the 4 voices. So maybe we'll do a mix. And let's actually unmute this and figure out what we're going to play. Let's get maybe a saw wave from both sides, maybe a little bit of pulse in there. Affect the pulse width a bit, just to give a nice image. Actually, I wonder if maybe we'll do in stereo. Do Castor on the left, Pollux on the right. Does that sound better? More interesting? I think that's a little bit better than having them mixed together as a mono voice. Actually, it has a sub-oscillator also, so we should really turn those up if we're going to have this be the bass voice. Oh yeah, listen to that growl. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet is that I think in the chord mode on Oxy 1, I'm not sure how you determine what a voice is. Like, I don't think it's necessarily like the lowest pitch in a given chord is like voice 1 or voice 2 or voice 3, because you have to like allocate voices to CV channels. And so I'm not sure how it decides which voice goes out of, goes to which CV. So we'll have to experiment. It may be that it's kind of hard to control having the lowest voice always go to the same oscillator, but I think maybe that'll be part of the interest of this, to see where it goes. So let's see, what should our other voices be? Well, what other, we could do maybe Manus. That's kind of could be a sort of similar voice in that it's kind of growly and grimy. So let's do an out. Is that cable going to reach? It's a little short. Let me get a slightly longer one. Let us patch in Manus out into channel 2. That cable's a bit long. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. That's fine. And let's make sure we've got a sound there. Hey, there we are. Already have a chord just because I have failed to tune these. Well, not so much failed as I just haven't done it yet. I don't know what pitch that is. We'll tune later. Or maybe we don't even need to. Who knows? Okay, there you go. So let's open the low-pass filter. Close down all of the various parameters on Manus just to kind of get the baseline sound. All right, that sounds like pretty much the same pitch. You know, maybe what I should do is actually route the audio through Mordac's data so that we can do things like tuning and other useful tidbits. Let's see if I can do this with my kind of main long cables. Yeah, this should work. So instead of going straight into from the mixer to the output, let's go from the mixer to data. And let's get it in tuner mode to start. And then we're going to need similar cables to go back the other way. I'm going to use different colors so it's easy to see that they're different. Okay. So out, left, to maybe I'll go over the top. Out right. All right. And let us zoom in on the left case. Hopefully everyone can see the screen clearly. Let me actually unplug this for a minute. Oh, actually, I guess we are only tuning one side here because we've got the left band. So let's get it like on C. As close as we can. Okay. And C on the right side. Ooh, that's really hard to hear. Or are we not hearing anything? Let me try. We're not getting the signal detected. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Now we're somewhere around C. Now this is an analog oscillator, so it's going to have some drift. That's fine. And so we're on Manus, we're a little off. All right, cool. Now we're in tune on C. What next? A third oscillator. Maybe have anything else nearby? No, I think we want to go to the left case. I mean, plates obviously needs to be 1. So maybe we will take the out there. I'm going to need a long cable for this. Let's take the out of plates. Or plats for my European brethren. All right, channel 3. I'm just gonna click a bunch of times and pick a random mode. I think this is wavetable mode. We're actually already on C, more or less. That's C4 right there. You know, we probably want Manus to be higher. Manus should be an octave higher. Oh, I guess it is C2. That's kind of hard to hear the difference. Let's go up an octave on Manus. Let's set this to C3. So it'll be a little easier to hear the difference between this and Castor and Pollux. Here you go. Nice thick sound. And Plates is very quiet compared to these other two. We're going to have to mix the values together. Okay. So that's 3 voices. Maybe we'll use beads for 4, because that's also got a wavetable mode. I mean, maybe I should use something other than wavetable on Plates, because beads has the same wavetable model in it. If you don't have anything patched into the audio input, it should produce the Plates wavetable mode. Josh Rose, welcome to the stream. Question, should you plug in CV from Oxy before tuning? It doesn't output exactly at 0 volts. You might have to retune if you want it to be exactly at C. That is a good point. That is a good point. I don't think that the absolute pitches matter that much. I was more kind of making sure that they're all in line with each other. I guess that could be annoying if anyone watching this has perfect pitch. I don't have perfect pitch, so hearing a note and having it called C when it's actually not C in terms of its frequency, that doesn't bother me. But it might bother someone else. So we could retune if that becomes an issue, but I'm not too worried about it. So let me switch to a different mode of Plates, like maybe... Oh, wait a minute. I'm not in the wavetable mode. This is something else. I can't remember what this one is called. The one right above wavetable. So this is actually fine. Let's find maybe a slightly more thick sort of wave sound. Need a thicker sound so it's a little easier. So that seems like maybe a filter. Not sure this is the mode I want for this. Let's try the mode above it. Let's see. Also very, very minimal. I kind of wanted something a little grimier. Well, FM will always do it. Alright, there you go. It's kind of thin sounding compared to the thickness of these lower voices. But that's okay, maybe. I think I can hear the distinct voices pretty clearly. Alright, let's get beads going for our 4th voice. And we're going to need another long cable. This is also stereo, but maybe we'll just do mono for now. I'm not sure yet what we're going to want here. Oh, let me go back to my overhead shot so we can see the mixer too. All right, 4th channel. That is very quiet. I don't hear anything now. I think it's just really low. Let's do maybe like a C4. So this is the wavetable mode on beads. Let me zoom in on the left case. So when you're in wavetable mode, the feedback, this little pot, changes the bank of waves, I think? Or is it time? One of these is like the wave scan and the other one is the bank. I think the feedback is the bank. So there's like 8 banks. And then you sweep through the wavetable in each bank with the time knob. Maybe this one, because it's kind of got almost like a chordal harmonic. Kind of a fifth going. Let's see how that sounds with the other ones. Let me turn up my own volume a little. It's a little quiet. If there's any audio problems for all of you watching, please let me know. So I may not hear exactly what you're hearing. I mean, that's a nice, thick, juicy sound. Even just with a single note playing, I mean, as a person interested in synths, that just sounds good to me. Who needs a melody? Who needs anything? Noguchi666, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for stopping by. For anyone who's just joining, we are doing some totally unplanned patching. I had nothing in particular in mind before the stream, but what we've started to do is we're going to use the chord mode on Oxy 1 to send chords with multiple voices via CV into the modular, and then we're going to have each voice played back by a different oscillator and combine them all into a single sort of sound that's really just kind of one thing, but it's pieced together with multiple separate oscillators. So we've just been setting up our 4 voices. On the lowest one, we've got Castor and Pollux. Let me go to the cam overhead. Castor and Pollux over here on the right is the lowest voice. And that's actually 2 different oscillators and we're using in stereo. Then we're using Manus Iteratosilia as the second voice. Plates or Plats as the third voice. Beads as the fourth voice, and all together you get this. Sounds pretty sweet. All right, let's get to Oxy 1ing. Let me pull this down a little bit so it's not covered by cables. I think everyone should be able to see that. Okay, I don't think the screen on Oxy 1 is going to be visible on the camera, unfortunately. I tried to get my GoPro set up with like kind of a close-up on that, but what I found is that I have, because the GoPro doesn't have a zoom, I have to get the GoPro really close to this for it to be kind of filling the screen, and then it blocks my view, and it also blocks the overhead shot. So it's going to take some work to figure out sort of a technical way to get more visual detail on the Oxy 1, but I'll kind of just talk through what I'm doing. So we're just going to use one of the 8 sequencers here, and I'm going to set it to be in chord mode. And then we're going to go to the CV gate page. And we're going to set the first 4 CV outputs to be the voices. So on the CV gate page, like the left 8 columns are CV assignments, and the right 8 columns are gate assignments. And I have a HDMI cable going from the Oxy 1 into the Oxy pipe module. So it's just kind of a convenient way to get all 8 of the CV and gate signals into the rack without having to plug cables into the back of the Oxy 1. So if I look at this now, that looks right. So the rows are like the... Oh, that's actually wrong. I want them all in the top row. And each one of these should be a different voice. Okay, I think that's actually all correct already. So this top left one is assigning CV1 to sequencer 1's voice 1. Sequencer 1's voice 2 goes to CV2. sequencer or one's voice 3, oops, goes to CV3, sequencer one's CV4 goes to 4. Yes, HDMI, that's right. I'm not sure how visible. I guess you can kind of see it where I'm pointing right here. There's a black cable that I have running kind of in the little groove between the two racks. It's mini HDMI on this end and full-size HDMI, so it's plugging in right here. This module on the left, let me zoom in. This module on the left is the Oxy pipe, and it's a passive module. It doesn't require any power. All it's doing is there's jacks on the back of the Oxy one that you can use for modular signals, and it's just a passive multiple of those jacks on the back of the module, so that you can patch entirely inside your rack, and you don't have to have like 16 cables coming out of the back of the Oxy one, which can be a little awkward. So in this section, the 8 CV signals and the 8 gate signals come out here, and then there's also a clock and a reset that can be sent from the sequencer. So that's all we're doing here is we're programming on the Oxy which of its internal sequencers is mapped to which of these CV outputs on the pipe. So I've now essentially done we're only using one sequencer in chord mode, so it's going to be voice 1, 2, 3, 4 corresponding to CV outputs 1 through 4. So now we need to plug these in to their corresponding modules, since we've already got the audio path going. So let's see if this cable's long enough. CV1 is going into the pitch of Castor and Pollux. CV2 is going into let me do a shorter cable. Actually, yeah, let me do a little shorter. Try to make this as visible as possible for the folks at home. CV2 into Manus pitch. CV3 into plates, plats, plutes. I'm going to use a longer cable there so it doesn't block Data's screen. Oh, that is a short cable. Someone has put their cables in the wrong place. No, that's still short. I want a longer one. Just futzing with the cables off screen, don't mind me. Volt per octave, 3. Question, is the HDMI transporting CV? Yes, it is. I mean, CV is just an electrical signal and HDMI is an electrical signal. So you can transport the same types of information across many different physical medium. You can do the same thing with Ethernet, or, I mean, really any audio cable is just an electrical signal. But yes, it has like more capacity for representing more signals at the same time. So you have a single, essentially like mono signal going over a single CV cable, but inside HDMI, it can transmit all of the CV that the Oxy one can do in a single cable. And again, you could do this without the pipe module, and you just plug these cables directly into the jacks on the back of the sequencer. But I find this to be more I find it to be more convenient, less messy cable wise. Okay, so we're going to plug in to pitch on 4, and let's bring the audio back in and see if they're still in tune now that they're plugged in. Oh my god. Josh Rose was right. We've got completely wrong pitches now. Live and learn. So, like an idiot, I tuned everything before plugging in the signals from the Oxy. So now the sort of baseline voltage it's getting is giving it a different pitch. But we can do this pretty quickly to tune these. Okay, there we got C2. on and this is one of those things that you only have to do in modular. People using MIDI instruments are probably laughing at us like, why even bother with this? This is dumb. Just use a digital oscillator. Oh, that's not far off. That one's pretty close. All off by... Oh. All off by about a semitone. But not too far. Yep. I guess on pitch I also need to do that. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. I mean, it's just like a basic setup thing. Actually, the part that's most annoying is like for analog oscillators. It takes like a while for them to warm up, so if you turn your system off and then turn it back on, even if you haven't changed any of the dials since the last time you used it, you'll have slightly different pitches and need to redo things, which is, yes, like Josh says, it's a bummer. I don't know. I enjoy modular enough that to me, it's not a showstopper. A lot of people are just like, anything that gets in my way of making music is like something that I don't want. And so the more streamlined my workflow can be, the happier I am. Personally, like, you know, what appeals to me about modular, or one of the things, is that like I just like the geekiness of kind of the electronics and the patching and the knobs and the dials and all of the little detail. So part of the fun for me is like messing with these little things. It's not all about the end result. I like to enjoy myself along the way. And maybe I'm a little nuts, but doing things like tuning and like unpatching after I'm done and organizing all of the cables, all of those things are kind of like sort of meditative in a way. And I don't mind that it's like extra stuff I have to do, because to me, it's just part of the process and part of what I enjoy about it. Oh, I hope my drinking and swallowing sounds aren't gross over the microphone. I need like a temporary mute button. So apologies for that. Okay, so we're in tune now. Let's listen to all of these together and make sure we are. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, so if I go into Oxy's keyboard mode, so with a chord mode sequencer, when you would normally have a sort of like a keyboard view here, these are actually chords. I actually haven't messed with this in a long time, so it may take me a few minutes to kind of find my bearings here. But, oh, I'm not hearing anything. Are we? Does anyone hear anything? I don't hear anything. So something I've not done correctly. Actually, let's try this. Let's just put... Okay, there's a C minor. So I was expecting that in the chord sort of keyboard mode, that when I press a pad, I should be able to hear something, but I don't. So maybe there's like a... So this is inversions. So these rightmost columns, I don't know how well you can see this on the screen. But basically the way that this view works is that each row represents like an octave. So this is like C minor. Oh, these are actually inversions, so it's a little different in this mode. Let me show the kind of the main mono mode. So here's what you would normally see as sort of the keyboard view for like a monophonic track in Oxy 1. So each row is like the diatonic notes of a single scale from the root to the next octave up, and then it just continues, kind of like you're going up the keys on a piano. So like C1 or C0, D0, E0, C1, C2, C3. You get the idea. But in chord mode, which is what we were looking at in the chord sequencer, These are, it's still the same thing where you have C, D, E, F going from left to right. But as you go vertically, it's, I think, changing the inversions, like changing the chord type, basically. And it's been a while since I've used this, so I need to kind of refresh myself, I guess. Amelophile, welcome to the stream. Lots of mutable. Yes, that is right. My left case is very mutable instruments heavy. I think the Mutable was like the company that got me interested in modular, which is probably true for a lot of people. As I was saying a couple minutes ago, like for me, it's not just about the sound. It's also about the aesthetics and kind of the geekiness and the detail of like all the technical detail. And I find the designs of the mutable instruments modules like so interesting and just very clever. Some more than others, but like really all of them are show a lot of imagination in the design of an instrument. And I just really like the way they look. And I find the user interfaces to be pretty intuitive, and they're just all very useful. So there's a lot of them that I don't have, but these are the ones that I felt like were kind of must-haves for what I was interested in. If cost were no object and space were no object, I would certainly get probably all of their modules. I think maybe there's a few small utilities or older ones that I wouldn't really use practically, but I think they're all of them are really cool. I was just talking to someone in the comments on one of my videos recently about I think it's called frames. It's like a keyframing module where it's just like a single giant knob. That's basically, it's like if you've worked in video editing, it's the same thing where you're kind of like you're setting automation points along a line, and then each time you set a keyframe, you can set a bunch of different parameters for that point. And it's a way to like change a bunch of parameters at once as you modulate sort of the timeline from left to right. Every time you hit a keyframe, all of the parameters that you have mapped to that keyframe morph from their previous position. It's really cool. So just like there's so many of them that are really cool ideas that I wouldn't necessarily use in every patch. So it's hard to justify like having a module kind of in my case more or less all the time. I mean, that's part of in modular, you can take things in and out. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but like that's one of the benefits of modular over using, like a dedicated hardware synth or something where you pretty much always have the same thing. Like you get the one physical box and it'll always be that. But with modular, you can change out the individual pieces based on what you're trying to do. So that's something that I like. Let me switch to the oscilloscope that's going to show us the waveform. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Is that maybe too low? Maybe I was just too low. Hey, we've got ourselves a chord. Awesome. So the reason I wasn't hearing anything, I think, is because I was just playing a note that was so low that my oscillators couldn't reproduce it. Like the CV range being sent out was below their range. So it is octaves as the root note, like I was saying before. So each row is like an octave on the keyboard, and the higher the row you pick, the higher the bass note. Like C0. Interesting. It doesn't actually say that it changes. What note is this? C minor, no inversion. C2 minor. All right, well, that sounds horrible. We're going to have to work on that. Let me catch up with the chat. I have a clone clouds, but that's the only mutable I have. Yeah, I think clone-wise, I don't... I guess I have one mutable instruments clone, which is grids, which is this guy over here. This is a clone of mutable instruments grids, and the clone is made by a company called CalSynth. Grids, I don't know. I think, oh, I guess the original Grids is much larger than this because it's kind of made to be ergonomic and like easily playable with because you can see these knobs are pretty close together, so it's kind of hard to play this. But I didn't really want to dedicate that much space in my case to that feature, so this was a case where a clone made sense for me. I also had one other one that was a clone. This over here, Branches, is one of the older mutable modules. I initially had a clone of Branches also from CalSynth, the same company. They make a clone called Twigs. Twigs is cool. It's a little bit different than this. Like it uses this, it's the same functionality, but instead of knobs, there's sliders for these controls. And instead of 2 channels, there's 4. So you have 4 sliders. What I found though is that I never used more than 2 channels on that at the same time, and it's 2 HP larger. So I was essentially giving up 2 HP for something I never used, and I was able to swap it out for the real Branches, which only has 2 channels, which is all I ever need, and gives me a little bit of space back, which allowed me to install the Bard Quartet expander. So yeah, kind of Jengaing everything in there to the best of my ability. And that worked out. But yeah, other than that, all of my mutable modules are first party. Oh, I'm getting a little behind on the chat. Let me see what's going on. When you brought the other case into the picture, my impulse was, wait, it's all black. Is that going to be all instro? Yeah, I mean, my right case is mostly, I think if there were, I mean, the bottom row is almost entirely noise engineering. So I think in terms of specific, like, module companies that I have a lot of, that's definitely the most represented. Like the white case is mostly mutable and IntelliGel. The black case is mostly mutable instruments. Not 100%, but definitely the most common. I think the only instro stuff I have is Oct and the Oct expander. I actually don't like the look of theirs very much. Like, I know it doesn't matter because it's the same functionality is the same, but I wish this had silver jacks instead of gold, so it would match everything else. It looks a little odd out with the rest of my case. Just geeky stuff that doesn't really matter, but building your own instrument out of individual modules, like the look of it is part of the fun, at least for me. I mean, you can very clearly see that with the way I oriented my cases to have one of them light colored and one of them dark colored. That was part of the puzzle and enjoyment of designing the cases for me, was like, how can I get everything that fits in exactly how much space there is with color coordination like this, and that actually makes sense to play in this order, and I'm not constantly patching back and forth between the 2 cases unnecessarily just because I wanted to match the colors. So it was really part of the fun of designing this, all of those considerations. Let's see what else. Yeah, Oct is kind of a no-brainer, just because it's so useful and it's pretty small and not too expensive as modules go. So yeah, I'm not crazy about the Oct expander actually. Like I mean, it's useful. I do use it a lot. But I just find the interface is not intuitive. Like remembering, I know what the general 4 sections are, but like which jack is which variant of that thing is very hard to remember, and I don't think that the graphics are very helpful in that regard. So I find myself with that one either just kind of YOLOing it or occasionally checking the manual, but more often than not, I'm like running those jacks through Mordax data so I can visualize what it's doing, because it's hard to remember like how each jack in the same section is different than the others. I don't really like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. I could replace these with silver nuts. I think I'm not really, I mean, as much as I like the geekiness of this, I'm not really like a DIY sort of person. Like I don't want to build my own module. I'd much rather just pay to have it assembled and given to me in a form that I know is going to work. The only sort of like, modification I've done is on Nivgrad, this one in the very bottom right corner. This is like an input-output module that brings signals up and down between modular level and like guitar pedal instrument level and line level for other pro audio gear. So you can use that for like an effects loop outboard. This one I originally bought with a silver panel because it went in this case. And then through some rearrangement of my design of these modules, I ended up needing to put it in the black case to make everything fit. And if you actually go back to my very first live stream on this channel, you'll see I did a video where it's like, my cases are finished. And that was when I finally filled the last slot in these two. And in that video, you'll see that there's a silver Nivgrad in the black case. And that was very annoying. So I actually did, the next time I ordered something from Noise Engineering, I also got the replacement panel to change it from silver to black, just to satisfy that little oddity that was making everything not match. But yes, Oct is 8 LFOs. So each one of these jacks is a bipolar signal, up and down like a sine wave. And the knob at the top controls the speed. I don't know how well I guess you can see it on the video. You can see that the speed of those blinking LEDs next to each jack are showing how fast the rate is. When the LED is white, it's in on the positive side of the sine wave, and when it's orange or amber, it's on the negative side. And then there's a CV input that you can use to sort of modulate the speed of these over time, and an attenuverter for the CV. And then the thing that's interesting about it is that the relationship between the different jacks it's not an even clock division. So it's not like, if this is the base speed, this is 2x, this is 4x, this is 8x. It's not anything like that. It's like all of them are at a slightly different ratio that doesn't sort of divide evenly. And the result is that if you use those 8 signals to modulate different parameters, they'll kind of meander in and out, and they'll never really sync up at exactly the same place. So you get these very kind of organic modulation signals that can be used for whatever you like. And because it's just set and forget, like, it's a really good modulation source if you just want to add a bunch of very easy movement to things without doing a lot of programming. It's literally just patch it in, set the speed, and you're good to go. Chaotic LFO divider. Yeah, I guess you could call it chaotic. I guess colloquially, like, chaos kind of implies something negative, but I guess it's, in a sense, it's not chaotic because it's very carefully planned as to what the relationships between the speeds are. Like, they're chosen to not match each other in a very specific way. But it is sort of chaos in the sense that, intuitively, you don't really know what it's going to do unless you just listen with your ears. But it's just like, for 4 HP, it's a lot of value to get 8 modulation signals that can be used in such an easy way. So yeah, the expander connects into that, and then it gives you, 16 additional outputs that have different functionality that are all derived from the outputs of the main module. So like the top section is unipolar triangle waves. The second section is kind of like slow, sort of random modulation signals that have kind of slightly different variants. So like one of them stays mostly in the positive range, one of them stays mostly in the negative range, and then there are a couple of different speeds. The third section is like random triggers that kind of are at a weird rate in they cascade into each other. So if you don't patch one in, it adds its output to the next one. And then the bottom section is essentially like sample and hold. It's like random modulation that stays at a particular value for some amount of time before changing. It's not like a smooth curve. It's like stepped. And these are 4 different speeds of that sort of signal. Hey, Andra. Welcome to the stream. It's nice to see you. I recognize you from the comments on my videos. Czech Republic. Greetings. Nice to have some European friends here. I suppose I haven't done a welcome in a while. I did a lot of that at the beginning. It's part of the difficulty of the live stream is like not everyone who shows up here will have heard what I said an hour ago. But yeah, so this is a new series that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing them every Friday at 1 p.m. my time, which is the Pacific coast of the United States. And it's just kind of a unplanned modular patching session. So I don't think too hard about what I'm going to do for these in advance. We just sit down and get going on something. And if we we veer off into tangents and other topics because people want to talk about other things, that's fine. We don't have to like achieve some specific goal every time. Like I'd like it to be social and I'd like it to be educational, and of course entertaining. So that's again my spiel about what this is all about. I think we've maybe exhausted our discussion on Oct for the time being. So back to the patch at hand, what we were trying to do is set the chords, or the chord sequencer in Oxy 1, sending a multiple voice chord with each voice going to a different oscillator. And we have achieved that. So if I unmute this, we've got some crazy chords going on here. So that's a C minor. Ooh. I'm hearing some wavering in the pitches. I wonder if the CV signal is not totally solid. Hold on. You know, I need to put this through like a VCA or something. Because that's really annoying having those drone on all the time. Let's do that before, because right now I'm just manually muting and unmuting these on the mixer, and I would like to not have to do that. So tell you what, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an envelope, and I'm actually gonna use the expander on the mixer to sort of simulate a VCA. I mean, I guess it's not a simulation; it is a VCA. This is the Zermixa, the mixer that I use. From Noise Engineering, like pretty much this whole bottom row is. It's an 8-channel stereo mixer, and it's got this expander on the left that has eight CV jacks, and it's got a modulation matrix. So if you want to control volume, panning, effect sends, anything like that, you can do so from externally with CV signals here, but the jacks here don't correspond numerically to the channels. So jack 1 is just like any signal, and then you program in using the screen and the software what effect that has across all 8 channels. So you can use the same modulation source to affect any number of parameters, and what parameter it affects and the degree to which it affects that parameter is different. So you could have, if you multiply it, you could have quite a lot of modulation just from 8 signals. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to send an envelope into the first input of the expander, and I'm going to use that as a VCA across all channels 1 through 4. So essentially we're creating a single voice out of 4 separate oscillators. So let me reset my quadrax, which we will use for the envelope. I have, what have I done here? I'm having to get everything back into sort of a default state because it's all still in the state it was in when I finished my song of the week. Stay tuned. On Monday, I've got a new song coming out, which I'm pretty proud of. It sounded pretty good. Okay, so let's get one green cable, and I'm going to need a long one. My color coding is that I use green for CV signals and like orange or kind of amber colors for audio signals. So I'm going to take CV out of Quadrax's first channel into the expander. Tango Delta, welcome to the stream. Greetings from Germany. All right, more European representation. Just for you European folks, I will try to pronounce what I call plates as plats. I think it's really funny that people always argue about the pronunciation of that module. Let me go back to overhead. Yeah, I got plate/plats over here. Every time I do a video where I mention this and I say plates, I get a bunch of comments that are like, it's pronounced plats, right? I'm like, look in the dictionary. It actually has both pronunciations. But since it was created by a European, I think plats is probably actually the correct pronunciation. Anyway, that tangent aside. Okay, so we're going to take let me just trigger it manually for a second. So you just take a cable to, is this going to reach? That it will. Let's switch to the left case. There we go. And I'm done with my T, so I can move this out of the way. I was kind of afraid that I would knock the T into the modular and be out of many thousands of dollars just from a spill. But praise the Lord, that did not happen. Anyway, so what I've got plugged in over here is the FSR from IntelliGel. This is a force-sensitive resistor. You can see when I tap it, the little LED goes on. Oh, I guess you can't really see because of that angle, but the amount of pressure you apply changes the amount of CV coming out of that top jack. And the bottom jack is just a binary on-off gate signal. So whenever I touch it, it sends a gate signal out of the bottom. And I can use that to just, with my finger, trigger quadracs, which is exactly what I'm doing here. So we've got a tap generating a trigger, which will generate an envelope, which we're sending into the first jack of the Zermexa expander. And yeah, good one, Nikuchi. Yeah. A single plat I don't think is, but if you look up the name of this module as it is spelled on the panel in like the Oxford Dictionary, you will see that it lists both plates and plats as pronunciations for that word. Yeah, exactly. It's more fun to say it in text where everyone just says their own pronunciation in their head. Okay. I don't think, actually, you'll have to tell me whether, can you see the screen? I just turned it on. I'm not sure it's going to be visible on the camera. And that is kind of a bummer. I'm actually not sure why it's not visible. I guess it's just not bright enough to pick up on the camera at the distance that the camera is from the screen. I know it's hard to get a view of this that has the full thing and then also zoomed in. Like this is just zoomed in software. So I can't get extra resolution there. Anyway, I'll walk you through what I'm doing. So if I go into the menu by pressing config, and then I select the expander menu, and then expander A, because I have one expander connected. You can actually connect multiple expanders if you need more CV input, but I only need one. Like one is overkill for what I use it for. And then I create a new modulation, and so you select which jack the source signal is coming from, so jack 1, and then which channel you want it to apply to, channel 1, and then what parameter you want it to modify, that's volume. And I'm going to, and then you've, yeah, so volume, yeah, I think that's right. I want it to affect volume, and then an action. So what effect does the signal have on that parameter? And your choices are add, scale, and over. I think what I want is scale. So scale is going to be like, the incoming signal will be a percentage of what the slider for that channel is set at. So if you get 0, yeah, I think that's right. We're gonna have to play with this. We'll test it out with just one channel before I start, because I'm gonna have to repeat this same like modulation matrix entry once for each of the 4 channels. But let's test it out with just the first one to make sure that this actually works as I'm expecting. So let me tap this guy. Get back to the big view. I'm not seeing anything because I need to actually do the application. So there's an amount, and it goes up pretty high. It goes to +2. It goes from -200 to +200. I'm not sure what those values mean in this case. So I'm just going to try it at 100 and see what it does. And I need... Oh, okay. Let me unmute. Okay, I'm hearing something. Let me add a little bit of fall time so it doesn't end so quickly. There, you hear that? So every time I press this now, we're triggering an envelope on quadracs. That envelope is being set into the expander input, and then Zermexa is configured to have that scale the volume from 0 to 100, 100 being the position of the slider. And so I think I just need to make the fall time slower. There you go. So the amount of time that that note lasts is determined by the position of the fall knob on the envelope. But really what I want is for this to be a sustain, because I want it to be triggered by notes from the Oxy one. I was just using this to test that. But it looks like this is going to work. So essentially I want scale to 100 for each of these. So what I'm going to do is create 3 more modulation entries. And each one of these things is going to be the same thing, jack 1, but mapped to a different channel. So volume, scale to 100 for channel 2. And then we're going to do a new mod, jack 1, channel 3, scale volume to 100. And then one more new mod, jack 1, channel 4, scale volume to 100. Oxy for the sequence was wondering where the Pamela was. Yeah, I do have Pam's Pro Workout on the far left here of the white case. I use it pretty often, but not as often as you might think, considering how flexible it is. I think in general, I kind of prefer the Oxy one as the brain. But sometimes when I don't feel like busting out the Oxy one, I use Pam a lot more. I think I tend to, I guess in actual songs that when I'm doing like a full jam, I think I tend to use Pam more as like a utility that's synced to the tempo. Usually I have Oxy one controlling the start, stop, and BPM of Pam, like have input into Pam so that the two of them are synced. And then I use the output on Pam to give me envelopes, modulation signals, logic sort of stuff, but synced to the beat that is controlled by Oxy one. And I do use the, I also use this for clocking other modules a lot. So like beads, I almost always use beads in a clock mode, so I'm sending it a clock signal. C-legs, the delay, I send a clock signal, and I usually use Pam for clocking those modules within these. How do I like Dual Dagger? It's great. I think it was the first filter I got. Dual Dagger is this guy right here. This is a filter from Shackmat, which is a company that I think is actually really cool. If when I start getting modules again, there's several Shackmat modules that I'm interested in. The only Shackmat that I have in this case is Dual Dagger, this filter, and the Bard Quartet, which is a quantizer over here. But yeah, Dual Dagger is great. It's I think I don't like it as much as my other filters, and so I tend to use it a little less. I tend to use this one in like really simple scenarios, or kind of like as an end of chain thing, to send just the whole stereo signal in through the output. Like if I want to do some kind of DJ sort of thing where I'm just high passing the entire main mix as an outro, I'll use Dual Dagger usually for that. But it's really fully featured. It's stereo, so 2 ins, 2 outs. It's got a low pass and a high pass, resonance that can be optionally applied to either high pass or low pass with these little switches. It lets you assign which of them you want to produce resonance. And then you've got CV control over all 3 knobs, and then also you can pan the low pass and the high pass in the stereo field with CV. There's no knob for that though. So that's cool. I think that it's also got like this link switch that allows you to kind of do a band pass where the functionality of the knobs changes, so that you're essentially controlling the cutoff of both filters with one, and the other one becomes like the width of the band essentially. I don't use that very often, but just because it's it's easier to do with other filters. But it's great. It's very I like that it's small. So you don't spend a lot of space on it, and it is pretty fully featured for like a basic filter, and it sounds good. It's like it's a 12 dB per octave, so it's kind of like a very smooth filter that's not really in your face. What is the big black module with the screen called? I assume you're talking about this one. That's, yeah, Zero Mixa. People are answering in the chat. It's a mixer from Noise Engineering's 8 stereo channels, plus 2 stereo effect sends, and also MIDI in and out for automation and recording parameter movements. I actually haven't used the MIDI functionality of it. And yeah, so it's an analog signal path with digital control. So this is great. I got it mostly because the size is perfect. Like in terms of trying to cram in everything possible that I was trying to get into this case, this was the best sort of size for a feature set compromise. I like basically everything about it, except for the fact that because it's an analog signal path and you only have stereo outs, that means that when I record a jam, I can't capture each channel individually in my recorder. I'm just getting the stereo mix. So if I was doing this for like really professional recording, I'd have to get, a mixer that would allow me, or an audio interface that would allow me to capture each channel as a separate audio file so that I could mix later in the computer. As is, the way I do this is really just like I'm recording a jam and I have, I try to get the levels as best I can based on my headphones and my monitors as I'm playing here. But if I screw up the levels in some way as I'm recording, I have like a limited ability to correct that in post because all I have is the stereo mix down. I don't have individual channels. And so certain things get buried, like the things can bleed into each other more, like making sure that the kick and the bass don't mask each other. That can be a problem when all you have is a stereo mix down. It's very hard to fix that in post. So I would love if this had direct outs, but I understand that it can't, given the way it's built and how big it is. It would need a lot more. And the other ways that you can do that in get direct outs in modular would generally require more space or have another feature set or aesthetic that I don't like as much. So this was the best compromise of the mixers that currently exist. Not ideal, but it works for my purposes. But I mean, it's kind of a benefit in a way, because one of the reasons the way I've gotten back into the music in the past few years is by trying to be less perfectionist about it. I was really, very focused on making sure everything I made was a masterpiece in the past. And that resulted in me kind of just having writer's block, where I was like, I'm so afraid of something not being amazing that I don't even want to make anything. And to try to break myself out of that rut, I've kind of embraced more of a like, just record a bunch of random stuff and have it be more ephemeral, more kind of throwaway. And so embracing this idea that I'll just record a stereo mix of a performance, and I'm not going to agonize over trying to mix in post-production and spend a million hours on every little detail, is just like a way for me to kind of fight against my natural instinct to try to make everything as amazing as possible, and just like let music be a thing that I enjoy the process of more than the end result. So in that sense, it was another reason why Zero Mix's lack of direct outs was an acceptable compromise for my use case. ALM stem ripper. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways in post to use tools to try to extract the different sounds from a single mix, and with varying degrees of success, I guess. I think that the more kind of standard your music is, like I can imagine like a traditional rock band with like vocals, guitar, bass, and drums is probably a lot easier for like a stem splitter to do than electronic music or something really kind of esoteric like what I'm doing here, where these are like the sounds coming from this thing are not acoustic instruments. And so it's hard to have training data that can identify the sound of a synth, which is a custom patch that I made that no one else has. Like there's no way to train that outside of like, I don't know. I guess there is if you're really advanced, but not something I really want to get into personally. But if anyone's tried that and had good results with stem splitting on like an electronic music thing, especially something modular like this, I would be interested in hearing your experience. See if there's anyone I have not greeted. Oh, Breeze, thank you so much for stopping by again. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you stopping by. I'm a fan of your channel. Several mixers. One for drums, one for synths. Each goes to a separate stereo input. Interesting. Yeah, man, I feel like someday someone's going to come out with my ideal mixer, but it just doesn't currently exist. There's a new one that Circo was just talking about a few weeks ago. I'm trying to remember who makes it. I think it's Board Brain, maybe? Who make the Exelon mixer. They have some new mixer that he was talking about that is actually kind of similar to Zermixa, that it doesn't have direct outs for the same reason, that it's like an analog signal path. You can, there is a workaround for Zermixa if you want to do like per channel recording. What you would do is, I should also say that, like, if I just sent each channel individually into my audio interface, obviously I could capture each channel individually, but I also use the mixer for performance. So as I'm doing a performance and capturing it, like the state of the mutes, the state of the sliders, the state of the effect sends, everything that's getting modulated via the expander, all of those things that are things that happen in real time. And if I'm sending the direct and not going through the mixer, then I lose that stuff. Which is part of the performance, and I'd have to like recreate it in the software afterwards, which I don't want to do. There is a workaround that Noise Engineering posted for this, where you do a molt of every single audio channel. You send the direct unaffect signal from your oscillator or whatever directly into your audio interface. You capture the raw, the raw output of the audio without any of your mixer performance, because it's not even going through the mixer. You send a copy of that signal through the mixer, which you can then perform as, and that's what you're hearing when you perform. And then using the MIDI output, you send MIDI messages to your DAW in real time as you perform that records all of the things that you're doing with the controls. And then in post-production, you reapply the MIDI messages that recorded what you did with the controls to the direct unaffected audio signals in the computer. So you could achieve the best of both worlds of having direct audio outs and capturing your performance with a stereo out only analog signal path. But that's a lot of extra work that kind of goes against what I was trying to achieve with this. And so I have never tried that, and I seriously doubt that I will. But technically it is possible to do that. And that's part of the reason why it has MIDI in out on the mixer, so that you can capture your performance as data but not as audio, and then use it for something else in post. BoardBrain Mixer does have outs per channel on an expander. I can't remember the details of this. I feel like I'm misremembering something, because BoardBrain already had a mixer called Exelon that came out, I think, like a month or maybe 2 months after I bought Zermixa. And I was like, oh man, this other one looks pretty good. Like maybe this would have been better. But Exelon is bigger, so it wouldn't have been able to fit in the case with the other things that I was planning to fit here. And so I wouldn't have chosen that anyway, even if it had been around when I was buying one. And then I'm pretty sure that they have a new one as of like, I should really just go look it up. But anyway, if you check out Surco's channel, Surco, just look at like the last month or two of his videos. He did a live stream where he was talking in detail about this new mixer that they're releasing. And it's kind of got the same problems as Zermixa, in that it's got an analog signal path, so there's certain things that you just can't do with it. It looks really cool, but it's just not for my use case. Like, the only thing I can imagine replacing Zermixa is if there was something that was functionally identical to this, but also had direct outs. Like, that's the only thing it's missing for my use case. And every mixer has pros and cons, but none of them are exactly the perfect feature set. The desktop version is new. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But I feel like there's something new about it beyond just the form factor. Like, it has some degree of new something or other. Anyway, if you're interested in that, I encourage you to go take a look. I'm trying to think where we left off here. Yes. So I was, if I unmute these now, we should hear nothing, because I've now set this up so that it's silent unless I trigger an envelope, and let's see if that's still the case. I mean, it sounds out of tune, but it is working. So if I send this a trigger, we get an envelope. It goes into the expander of the mixer, and the mixer basically just applies that as a VCA across all 4 channels. So we're essentially treating all 4 of these oscillators as a single voice. So let me go back to the sequencer now. Let me set the scale. Right now it's set to chromatic. Let's set it to the minor scale. The root note can be C2, that's fine. And if I place a chord here, let's just try, I mean, this isn't going to make any sense, but why is that D sharp? That's not what I want, is it? Huh. Well, so I'm putting down a C minor, and then let's do, why is that D sharp too? Oh, I think it's E flat. It doesn't understand, in the diatonic key of C minor, the 3rd scale degree is E flat, but it calls it D sharp. Like, it's the same note, but it doesn't actually make sense music theory wise. But let's do maybe like a 4, let's do a 6 actually. Yeah, same thing. A flat it shows as G sharp. So I'm just doing a very basic, wait, that's the wrong one. A very basic kind of chord sequence just to get us started here. So I've got 1, 6, 4, 5, and I just did something wrong. Okay, so now we've got a chord sequence here, just 4 quarter notes with a single bar. C minor, A flat major, which seems, yeah, I guess that's right. F minor, G minor. So 1, 6, 4, 5. And we're not hearing anything yet when I press play, and that's because the gate trigger for these is not wired up to anything. So we need to replace this blue cable, which I had been using to trigger the envelope manually. Let's go back into the CV matrix, and we're going to set gate output 1 to be a trigger for voice 1 of sequencer 1. The voice doesn't matter because they're just like on top of each other. They all play at the same time. So let's unplug this, and let's plug this guy into gate output 1. Let's see if that works. Plug this under so it is a little less in my way. Okay, well, it sounds bad, and I think that's probably a tuning issue, but we are successfully getting essentially chords out of this thing. Let me mute. Let's just listen to one of them at a time to make sure it kind of makes sense. I think that might be out of range. Sounds a little out of tune. Oh, that sounds completely wrong. This is... Why are we not getting any pitches there? A little suspicious. I wonder if maybe I'll just repeat it on one note for now. That sounds really wrong to me. All right, we are getting C1 there, which is correct. I feel like this is wrong, though. It's kind of sharp. I think it's supposed to be E flat. This might sound better an octave up. let's stop this and let me increase the root note to C3. Okay, I don't know how well y'all are with music theory, but this is a or it's a minor third interval. So the Castor and Pollux is playing C, Manus Ateritas is playing E flat, and so you have a minor third. Dun, 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 dun. You can hear that, and let's see how this note is coming out. This should be. I think we might want to go an octave down on this thing. So that's the fifth of the chord. So now we've got C, E flat, G, which is root third fifth. And then the last one should be another C. And that's the octave of the root. So we've got C, up to E flat, up to G, up to the next C. So it's not perfectly in tune, I feel like. But I'm also not sure which one is off. Well, because of the nature of Castor and Pollux, it kind of wobbles a bit, so I think that's just the nature of having chosen that oscillator here. Surprisingly, Manus doesn't seem to be staying in tune very well, which is weird because it's a digital oscillator. So I don't know why that one is changing. Plates is a little bit sharp. And beads is also a little bit sharp. It's very hard to do fine pitch tuning on these things. I find that it's amazing how sensitive our ears are to changes in pitch. Like the fact that I can hear something out of tune when it's just a couple of cents off is really kind of astonishing. But I mean, there you go, that's a chord. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, essentially, that like you don't really think of polyphony or chords much in modular because you can only send like essentially one note signal over a single cable. I mean, generally speaking. And so most oscillators tend to be monophonic. But you can sort of create polyphony with just using multiple oscillators, one for each voice. And it's kind of cool. Like, whereas, you know, you might have a polyphonic sequencer where you're playing multiple pitches with the same timbre. This gives you a really nice, thick, interesting sound because you have a different timbre per voice making up the same chord. Yeah. I think that sounds cool. Okay, so let's unloop that so we get all four of our chords. Oh, I looped the wrong point. I mean, there you go. That's some chords right there. Mission accomplished. All right, let's shut it down. No, I'm kidding. I think there's more we can do. Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer because, like, and it actually kind of, at least for me, it's a little ironic that I actually find harmony to be the most kind of compelling and interesting and enjoyable part of music. And of course you can have harmony without chords. Like, you know, harmony is just the implied root of chords that changes as throughout your progression. And, you know, all you need is an interval to kind of imply a chord that's kind of underneath it. Or also an arpeggio is in a sense harmony because it is a chord. It's just that each tone in the chord is being played at a separate time. That's really the only difference between an arpeggio and a chord is like whether the notes are all played at the same time or whether they're kind of done in sequence, like this, you know. versus dun 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 dun, like dun 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 dun. It's still the same notes. It's just, are you playing them all at the same time or one after another? So you can still have harmony with monophony, but I think that just like having a chord, especially like as a pad sound, will really it really adds a lot to music. I think it's like the most compelling part of music for me. So again, it's kind of ironic that I like modular so much, given that the part I like about music so much is something that's hardest to do in modular. But I guess that's also kind of why I'm drawn to trying to do this kind of thing. I don't know. Eurorack chord is like the boss. I think Breeze is, I mean, I'll let Breeze speak for himself, but I think it's just kind of like, kind of what I was saying is that, most oscillators are monophonic. So by that nature, you can't produce a chord from a single oscillator because it can only play one note. So if you want to achieve chords in Eurorack, then the way you do that is basically what I'm doing here, is you have to have multiple sound sources so that you can produce multiple voices at once. And so, someone who's not into modular, who's just doing kind of our, the usual sort of music production stuff where you're using virtual software instruments, or even a hardware synthesizer where it's got a keyboard and you just play the keys that you want and boom, instantly you've got a chord. Like, here we are spending an hour and a half to like painstakingly recreate this extremely simple, fundamental aspect of music in a like the most complicated imaginable way, with all of these patch cables and setup, and just like, it's a lot. But I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need to do this. And I think this is also why I don't think like modular is like the be all end all of music and like music production techniques. I find it interesting. I find it fun, but I will never in a million years claim that it's like the best way to do anything, and certainly not the easiest way. And I get comments on my channel from time to time about that. Like, I'll show a technique that's like, I think in actually one of my videos about, was it making the chords? It might've been the one on the, like using Pam's Pro Workout and plates to do like a drum beat with modulating the model input. And someone commented like, this is ridiculous that you needed like a 7-minute video to explain this intricate technique to do a beat that you could have done in like 10 seconds on a drum machine. And yeah, it's like, yes, that is not lost on me. I understand that it's easier to do this with the more common tools, but that's not the point. Like, it can be interesting and fun for other reasons. It's not all about what's the easiest, most painless, quickest point from A to B. Like, it's really about enjoying the journey, enjoying the intellectual challenge of a different way of doing things, and just doing something different, Anyway, rant over. If you have a knobular oxymodular, there's some caveats to like polyphony in Eurorack, but I don't think you can do what I'm describing as a chord with like, I'm not sure analog is the right term here, but like a standard Eurorack oscillator is like a single sound source producing a single pitch. The modules that do polyphony in Eurorack are, as far as I know, are really just essentially digital synthesizers that are in Eurorack format. So, like most of the mutable modules like plates are just digital synthesizers. And that's the reason why those algorithms, like the software inside of this thing, has been ported to other systems, like the Arturia, I think the Micro, which one is it? Micro Brute, or I'm totally blanking on the name. The little one with the capacitive touch keys that everyone loves. Or maybe it's the Micro Freak. That's what I'm thinking of. The Micro Freak, I think, or maybe the Mini Freak, like has like Platt's algorithms in it, because it's just code. Like, it's software that's running on a chip, as opposed to like an analog signal path or like an analog oscillator. And so obviously a computer can recreate multiple pitches at the same time. And I think that's like the Oxy module that does polyphony. God, what is the name of that? Choral, I think. That's just a digital synthesizer in Eurorack format. So it's just a computer in a module. And it does, as far as I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that it has like one input that's actually a MIDI signal. So you're not sending it like a pitch CV, because otherwise it would need a pitch CV per voice that you want to play. If you want to play multiple pitches at the same time, multiple notes at the same time out of the same module. And so I'm pretty sure its input control is actually MIDI over a 3.5 millimeter cable, like TRS MIDI. And so obviously MIDI is a different format of control signal than CV and gate. Like these cables in Eurorack just send a single value. Like it's either 1 or it's 2 or it's 3, if you think of it in digital terms. Like it's just a number that's being represented as like a position on a dial. But MIDI is an electrical signal that carries a lot more information on it. So it's 16 channels of pitch information, gate information, velocity information, a whole bunch more detail. And you can use the same kind of cable to transmit both of those two signals. Although I guess for MIDI, you need a TRS, which is a little different. I don't think I have an example next to me, but oh yeah, I do. So you can kind of see the difference. I'm not sure if you can see this clearly on the stream. I'll try to hold it a little closer. Oh, I guess it won't be in focus, but here's a TRS cable, which has the 2 little rings. So it's tip, ring, and sleeve. There's like 3 sections of the connector, and that's like 2 different signals. So this is like stereo audio, or MIDI can be sent over this. But then there's all the standard Eurorack cable is like the mono version of that. It's just a tip and a sleeve. So there's like an additional signal that can be sent over this. So they're not exactly the same kind of cable. Like this is like double information from this. But MIDI goes over a TRS connection, so it carries a lot more information than a standard Eurorack signal. Anyway, long story short, I think that when you have like a polyphonic Eurorack module, it's really just like a digital synthesizer that you're sending MIDI over what looks like a modular cable. But it's really kind of, what it's doing technically is different. That was a possibly cringe level of geekiness. I apologize for that. That was maybe more detail than anyone wanted. But anyway, I'm kind of doing this chord thing like the brute force way, which is like, don't just get a digital synthesizer, get like four modules that could be digital or analog that are just a single voice, and create that polyphony from multiple sources. So that is what we have here. Let's set this to be a hold. Interesting. Okay, so now I turned on the Quadrax. It's got a mode. Let me see if I can zoom in. Maybe you can see it a little bit better. This button right here. So the top row of knobs is the first channel. Quadrax is a 4-channel envelope generator. I'm just using the first channel right now. Let me set this back to oscilloscope mode. You're just using the first channel here for rise and fall time of a curve, essentially, that is triggered when a gate comes in here. And it's got modes for how it responds to the incoming gate. By default, it's just an attack decay. So as soon as it gets a trigger, the signal will rise for the time determined by this knob, and then when it hits the peak, it'll begin falling, determined by the time determined by this knob. But if you set it to the red mode here, then it's going to hold the signal at its high point as long as the gate is still high. So this is essentially meaning that it's now tracking the duration of the notes coming from the Oxy 1 sequence. Before, it was just like ignoring how long the note was in the sequence and just controlling the length of the note based on the fall time of the envelope, regardless of what signal it was getting. But when I put it into red mode, it'll now keep that signal high as long as the incoming gate from Oxy 1 is high. And so as a result, because I have these chords like right up next to each other with no break in between, essentially like it never falls because the next note just starts right away. So we're not getting any fall now. And I think I can change that because right now I have, hold on, let me turn off this preview step. So I've got actually it's got 50% gate length. Let me try turning the fall time off completely. Okay, yeah. So if I turn the fall all the way to 0, so it's just instantly off as soon as the gate ends, then I've got a binary on or off. And because I have the gate value at 50 on this last sort of 16th note value for that first chord, there's going to be a little bit of a gap before the next chord starts. And that's enough for the envelope to go down and essentially turn off the sound before the next note starts. But on Oxy 1, I can change that. So if I change the gate length of this of the end of this first chord, it'll sort of smooth it into the next chord coming. So I'm just going to increase the gate value for this first chord. You hear how it's all smoother now, and I can actually turn it all the way to legato. And then it doesn't break like it was before. If I make these all legato, then there should be no fall time. It should just smoothly transition from one chord to another. And this is actually really cool. How you're getting the perception of like a melody because of the fact that you can't allocate a specific voice to a specific CV. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that right. I mean, you do assign a specific voice to a specific CV, but if you have a chord that's like, let's say 4 notes, you've got like a bass, a third, a fifth, and an octave. How Oxy 1 is determining which of those is voice 1, 2, 3, 4 is not based on how high the pitch is, but it's based on which note played first in time. And so you're kind of like, every time you play a new pitch, you're using up a new voice, and it just cycles through those 4 voices every time a new one comes in. But that means if I allow the pitches to stop and then start again, it might choose a different sort of voice allocation on the next set of notes. So you get a little bit of sort of unpredictability there. I feel like this is still wrong though. Like, is it just me or does it sound a little out of tune again? Let's bring our tuner back. This is kind of annoying. I'm wondering what's going on here. I wouldn't expect the tuning to get out of sync so easily. I wonder if it's maybe... I mean, that seems okay. That seems pretty much okay. Could maybe be... Oh, that actually seems fine. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes it sounds like it's out of tune, but I guess maybe it wasn't. I feel like this sounds really cheesy. I want a different sound here. know if that's much better. Maybe an octave down on this, because it sounds kind of cheesy up that high. That's C5. Let's try C4. Yeah, that sounds better to me. I mean, that sounds actually really nice. Like, this is like the simplest chord progression. But because of the kind of like slightly unpredictable voice allocation and just the nice mix of different timbres, it's sort of like, it's almost like a synthesizer choir, you know, like a 4-part choir with 4 people, you know, everyone's voices are different. So if you have a bunch of people singing at once, it creates this really beautiful sound, which is very different than just playing 4 different pitches with the same timbre on a polyphonic synthesizer. Like, this is just a very different sound than that. It sounds so much fuller. Let's give this some delay and reverb, and it'll really shine. We're gonna get a couple of long cables. So we're gonna do in to the C legs module, which is going to be our delay and reverb, and then back out of its outputs. Into return A. And then let's get some sends going. That's pretty quiet. I think we basically want full value being sent. Maybe I'm going to use tape delay. This is probably fine. The problem with this, though, is because it's a chord, it's hard to hear the delay. It kind of, it'll add a little bit of thickness to it, but it's hard for me to like tune it because there's not distinct on-off. I guess what we can do is, let's get rid of the chord aspect of it for now. Let's untie these. Let's just do kind of 16th note pulses. Wait, why is it? I don't want it to be legato. Give me like a 50% gate. And we'll just do 16th notes, so that I can get the delay kind of time working. So we got ba 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 ba. These should be 50. Yeah. So 1, 6, 4, 5. There we go. I mean, you know what? Really the right way to do this is to clock it. Oh, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. 4 clocks from Pam with 25% skip, running 4 envelopes, controlling the VCs for the voices. Yeah, you're right. Kind of staggering the note on off so that they're not all just landing directly on the downbeat could be really interesting. Let me at least clock this real quick. So we've got, let's see, we've got a clock out coming from the Oxy one that we can stick into Pam's clock in. And when I start this, yeah, so that syncs them up. And then I think I do one more cable for the sort of on-off, the reset value. And then we can give a clock to, this is what I was saying earlier, is this is a common use case for me for PAM. All right, so now now see the delay is clocked. And so the slider over here, this slider is the time control for the main delay. If you have a clock coming in, then this becomes a multiplier or divider of that pulse. So this is just like straight 16ths, I guess. I really like kind of dotted values for delays. I think like dotted 8th or dotted 16th delay values sound really good. It's a little hard to hear up here because it's let me pick one of the high ones. I wonder if this is too fast. Maybe let's give it a 2x clock. It's kind of weird. I'm not hearing what I would expect. Do I have something set wrong here? I would expect to hear a little sort of... I think because it's so regular, here's what we're going to do. We're going to change at a faster rate, and then we're just going to play 4 steps and repeat. Oh, I think what's happening is it's not actually changing pitch because the same voice is being allocated. There we go. I'm not actually sure what rate of clock C-Legs expects, whether it wants 1x, 2x, 4x of the BPM. I just want something where I can hear kind of the effect of the delay's rate. Again, this is one thing I don't love about C-Legs is like each position of this slider has a different clock multiplication or division. But in cases where it's a little hard to hear it, it's hard to remember what position corresponds to which multiplication or division unless you look at the manual. I mean, it's definitely interesting. You can get some pretty nutty sounds just from this. Changing between the long and the medium delay lengths gives you some crazy little wiggles. Let me try giving it a 2x clock again. Okay, that sounds pretty good. I mean, actually the reverb tail with a delay actually almost sounds cooler than the rest of it. How cool is that tail? That sounds awesome. That's wild. Why was I getting such modulation there? I have the modulation all the way down. Did you guys hear that? Huh. You hear that? You hear the kind of wiggliness? I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. It's like super modulated delay and reverb, but I don't know where the modulation is coming from. I don't have the modulation going on this. I think maybe the clock is getting confused because I keep starting and stopping. Yeah, it's because Pam stops that it thinks that the tempo is changing. So it's kind of like I want the clock from Pam to keep going regardless of whether or not the Oxy is playing. I'm not sure I care enough to bother with that, but I think yeah, Breeze, yeah, you're right. That is why it's happening. Because like C-Legs doesn't know whether the sequencer is playing or not. All it's doing is listening to pulses coming from Pam and trying to determine a rate from repeated pulses. And so as soon as this is getting like a 4x the tempo, but then as soon as I stop the sequence, Pam stops putting out signals, and suddenly C-Legs is like, oh wait, I was expecting another pulse. Like, what is this new tempo that you're sending me? And is trying to extrapolate the long gap that comes after that last pulse, and it is guessing the tempo wrong. It's kind of funny. Another quirk of modular that is like something you wouldn't have to worry about in like a MIDI environment. But it's all just analog signals here. And each module is not aware of its neighbors unless you give it CV. But I mean, that's kind of a cool sound. It's not what I was like imagining per se, but it's still pretty cool. Like I feel like it's kind of good sample fodder, if anything. Man, it's kind of unfortunate that I picked beads for that that last oscillator, because I kind of want to sample that reverb tail with the modulation into beads, and then use that for something. But I think I'm kind of out of sound sources we can switch to. I mean, I guess I could. I mean, we could use Basimilus. Let me go overhead again. We could use BIA as a melodic voice. It's, generally regarded as a drum synth, but it's plenty good at other tones too. So we could switch from using beads as the fourth voice to BIA, and then we could use beads to sample. That is a possibility. Yeah, that's true. I could just, so Pam is set to the same tempo, but I think, yeah, like I see what you're saying. Like basically like use, like keep Pam going even when I stop the sequence. But I guess the problem with that is that when I press play the next time, the like beginning of the start sequence may not actually be aligned with what Pam is doing. Use a filter. A filter for what? Oh, use a filter for a sound source? Like just turn up the resonance and get a sine wave? Yes, I could indeed do that. I think You know, I just did that video on Icaria this week, and of course, one of its features is that it self oscillates. I find that even with volt per octave, filter self oscillation is usually not great at pitch tracking. At least for my ears, that's like very sensitive to slight variations in pitch. It's not. It doesn't really. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter here. We're just playing around. But yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? Let's check out the tuner and get these playing the same pitch. Let me repeat this guy. All right, so we want an A sharp 4. Oh, let me turn off the. So we're going to change to. Actually, let's try doing using dual dagger, since someone was asking about it earlier. I'm not sure if this tracks volt per octave, but I guess we'll find out. What filters do I have? I've got dual dagger, blades. We could definitely use blades. That self-oscillates. I've got Icaria. That definitely self-oscillates. And I've got Neptune, which I'm not sure if that self-oscillates. I've never tried it. Blades does, I know. Icaria does, I know. Icaria, as I was saying, I don't feel like it tracks pitch that well. But it's probably fine for our purposes here. Yeah, what did I just plug into? So let's do full resonance. I mean, I could just... oh, I don't hear anything, though. I feel like if... I should be hearing it. Oh, no. Let me... Oh, it is playing. Yeah, so maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but I'm not hearing... Oh, actually, you know what? I think Dual Dagger has a dip switch on the back of the module that changes its resonance behavior, and you can turn on and off self-oscillation. And I think I might have it set to off because it's not something that I usually want. And so being able to turn the resonance all the way up without getting feedback is usually my default case. Like, that's what I want. And so I think it can do it, but I have it disabled. But yes, let's try blades, because yes, I know that this can definitely do it. I'll use the right side because my cable will reach a little bit better. I need a longer green cable though. It's kind of a pain having the cases oriented side by side like this. I usually have them oriented vertically, and so I don't need such long cables to go from case to case. But this is much better for the camera. There's a volt per octave input. Before I plug that in, let's get this going. Why am I not hearing anything? Oh, it's just really low. What pitch were we playing before? I want... Oh, this is not going to matter. Hold on. Like, A sharp? That seems wrong. I'm not sure which pitch this is supposed to be, but I guess we'll figure it out. I think it's more likely supposed to be G sharp. So, kind of an intense tone, but I guess that's okay. That doesn't sound like the right note. Yeah, that's true. Pinging is cool. I don't do it that often, but I really should. This is not an ideal way to tune. I don't actually know what pitch it's supposed to be. This is set to, this is in C though. So I should be able to, let me just tune chromatically. I'll give it a C. Oh, hold on. Let's just do this real quick. Bunch of C's, and we're going to change the CV gate so that sequencer 2, CV4 is the pitch, and yeah, that should work. Oh, it's actually right on. How is that possible that it was already on the right pitch? I guess I just did it by ear better than I thought. I have the resonance all the way up. I think it looks like on Blades, turning the resonance down a little bit will make it a little bit flat, but it's not exactly tuning it. I think that's probably close enough. Oh god. I feel like I get it almost right and then I overshoot it a little bit. That's probably fine. It's a very mild tone, so I'm gonna have to probably, okay, let's put this back. Voice 4. Let's go back to sequencer 1, get our full sequence going. Okay, I feel like I need something else to keep this from getting annoying because it's getting a little much. Yeah, actually, maybe what I'll do is let's make the notes shorter so we can have a little bit of tail on each one. Self-patch and output to the FM input for a saw wave. The FM input on Blades. And an output of what are you thinking? One of the other oscillators? Oh yeah, we can hear the when I turn the reverb down, we can hear the delay much better. I think I was just washing it out too much. I mean, another thing that would really help here is just to run this all through a filter. Let's do that. Let me do, we can use Icaria for this. So let's unplug that for a second. And, oh, let's see, lift in and out. Should be here. And then, are these long enough? All right, that's definitely less annoying. Just getting some of the highs out. One of the spare filter outputs. Oh, you mean just like turning using it as using the other side as an oscillator. Let's see what we can do. So output of side 1 into the frequency input of side 2, turn the resonance up on side 1. That's a little hard to hear now. Let me get rid of the other voices while we're doing this. There's your FM. No, that's cool. I mean, we can learn from each other. I mean, you can hear that's with that FM is significantly different than basically just the sine wave here. Let me turn off the... That's kind of where we started with this voice. So it's registering that. I think it's basically a C there. I think. Maybe not. Try to get this a little bit more consonant. If data can recognize it as the correct pitch, then I think we'll maybe try a lower one. No, we want it to be pretty high. That sounds like a C to me. Maybe a little bit cacophonous, but that's fine. It's modular after all. How about we send a second envelope to the master filter here? And I will once again need my longest cable. That's a long way to go. Alright, I can chain this and send the same trigger to the second channel. And then let's patch into the mod. Hold on, let me catch up here. You patch a high pass out into the FM in the same filter. Monitor the low pass out. Turn up FM, you get a saw wave. I'm not sure what you mean by high pass out, because I don't have separate high pass, low pass outputs on blades. Like, it's just dependent on what mode you're in. Since I'm just using it as a resonator, it doesn't have, like, there's no input signal. Oh, just bumped my mic. I need to get some water. Also, I realize I've been streaming for more than 2 hours now. It's probably time to wrap it up. Yeah, that's right. So, Blades has 3 outputs. So it's like technically not stereo. It's more of like a dual mono filter. And it's got a direct output of each of the 2 sides. And each side can be low pass, high pass, or something in between. And then there's a main output, which combines the 2 in accordance with however you have it routed. Go to my left cam. So the routing knob here lets you morph between like 3 different relationships between the left and the right side. When you have the knob all the way counterclockwise, it's the left filter just goes straight to the main output and is not passed through to the right. As you blend towards noon, then it's applying the left input in parallel to both filters. And then as you blend to fully clockwise, the output of the left filter becomes the input of the right filter. So you always have a direct out of each individual filter, but then the main output is whatever this is set to be. So it's either a copy of the left, a blending of the parallel processing, or a series chaining of the filters. But yeah, you don't have like different filter type outputs dedicated, unfortunately. You need a different type of filter for that. I do have some that have, let's see. Actually, I actually don't have a filter that has multiple dedicated filter type outs. Like off the top of my head, I think Ripples can do that. Like it has a low pass out and a high pass out that can be used simultaneously. But I don't think any of my filters can do that. That would be maybe something to look for if and when I get a 5th one. But yeah, Dual Dagger has only just stereo outs. Icaria just has stereo outs. Neptune is mono. Neptune has a low pass and a high pass in, but only a single out, and then you do like a spectral crossfade between the two, so you can have like 2 unrelated signals that get turned into one. So it's kind of the opposite, that it has like multi-band inputs, or not band, but like filter type, multi-filter type inputs, but only a single mono output. So yeah, I never really thought about that, but I guess that's a gap in my collection here. All right, well, I think maybe this is a good stopping point for today. Ooh. But we did a little experimenting. Kind of fun. Making some chords. Chatting about various aspects of my rack. Well, for everyone that came by today, thank you very much. I appreciate the audience and all of the interesting questions and ideas. Yeah, for real. Oh yeah, I forgot the whole reason I was doing this was to like sample the reverb tail into beads when I'm like stopping this. I'll have to do that. Yeah, maybe I'll leave this patch going or just do it real quick before I shut down. But I'm getting tired after talking for 2 hours, so I think it's time to wrap it up. But yeah, thank you everyone for stopping by. I'm going to be doing these every week. I think Friday at 1. I mean, it works for me. I know like won't work for everyone as we're all around the world in different time zones, but it seems like at least a few people were able to come from Europe, or I guess it's evening right now. Breeze, I don't know what country you're in, but somewhere in Europe, right? And we had someone from Germany earlier. I know a couple of people, someone last week said that it was like about the only time that would work for them, but it was like at their bedtime. So yeah, kind of tough in the US because like most people are still at work at 1 o'clock on a Friday. But, you know, maybe I'll do them at different times occasionally to try to get a different set of people who can make it. But yeah, I'm going to be doing these once a week. I've got another video coming out on Monday, which is not like a patch from scratch talking head, but just like a musical performance, which I was pretty happy with. So I hope you'll all check it out. And anything else to say? Oh yeah, I do have Patreon now. So if you found this useful, I would appreciate any support. Right now, the only like paid benefit is access to download of musical performances. So any videos that I post on the channel, you can get a high quality audio recording that you can download. Other than that, yeah, I'll try to be posting stuff about weekly. And yeah, same time next week, come back with more ideas for what we can talk about, patch ideas, things we could build, and we'll see where it goes. Belgium. Ah, cool. Well, I hope you have a good night. Thank you for stopping by, and I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I think I will play us out. Thanks, everyone. Have a good morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are, and see you next week.